I've got a submission here from ZParticle, who has submitted a video and a log with some obvious vibration problems. Let's take a look at the video first real quick, and you can see what's going on, assuming that my screen capture has enough frame rate to let you see it. Yeah, so it's pretty dramatic, isn't it? Let's take a look. As always, we're going to start first with the gyros, and we'll zoom back out again, and we can see that the gyros are crazy noisy. Crazy noisy. Okay, so yeah, you definitely have a problem. You have a vibration problem. I mean, we knew that from the camera, but this definitely tells us that it is not just a problem with like a loose FPV camera, because the board is seeing it too. It's also interesting to note that we definitely see something going on, even just from the moment you throttle up, you arm rather, from the moment the motor starts spinning. This is really thick line. As you start to raise the throttle, the line thins out. What's happening there is that the fundamental frequency of the vibration, as the prop spin faster, it becomes higher frequency and is more aggressively filtered. That's very normal. Through here, the lines are pretty thin, and it is only when you begin to really throttle up. No, that's not true. You're not very high throttle here, and it's pretty noisy. But then when you get to high throttle, it just goes bonkers. So let's take a look at your parameters first of all. Gyro LPF 188. So that's probably as much filtering as most of us should need. Many of us will be able to get away with less filtering. We'll be able to get away with gyro LPF of off. But I don't think if you're seeing this much vibration and you're filtered, something is definitely up. You've got your D term filtered, and a D term LPF of 30 is pretty heavy. Again, for many setups are able to run without D term filtering at all, so it's pretty heavy. Your D term is not excessive. So let's keep looking and see what we see. Let's look next at your roll PIDs. Well, we are definitely seeing oscillations in the P term. The P term is very active, but we saw noise in the gyros even over here when your throttle was quite low, and the P term is not super active here. So that makes me think that this is not a tuning issue. It's not that your P term or D term is too high and it's causing oscillations, but that there are oscillations that are occurring that then at higher throttle cause the P term and the D term to become very active. Because if your P gain was too high, then you would probably see excess of P gain like all over the place. You'd probably see excess of P term activity at many throttle positions. That's not entirely true. It will get high throttle will bring out, if you were right on the edge, it would bring it out. But the thing is, again, if we go back to the gyro, because we see a lot of activity here, see this back and forth motion in the gyro, that's all kinds of vibration that's happening on these axes. And that's happening at low throttle when we don't see the P term flipping out. So that tells you that something is causing the oscillation, but it's not that the P or the D term is flipping out and causing the oscillation, because here we see the oscillation, but we do not see the P or the D term flipping out. You follow? We haven't looked at the yaw axis. The yaw axis is oftentimes a source of problems. And the D term on the yaw axis, you can see, is barely active at all. We do have a lot. Yeah, the P term is very active. We do have a lot of activity, sort of constant back and forth movement on the P term. And I bet when you raise the throttle, it really goes bonkers. Yeah, this is not good here. These spikes that we're seeing here, that's too big of a spike, and it's not ideal. So I think what I'm going to go with, let's look right here. It's probably going nuts. Yeah, It's not good. I think what I'm going to go with here is that your yaw P term is too high. Yaw P of 8 doesn't immediately strike me as excessive. But are you on... It doesn't say here whether you're on... You got to be on rewrite, right? Are you on LuxFloat or rewrite? That's kind of an important question. I think you're on LuxFloat. Yeah, maybe. 3 is going to be pretty low on rewrite. A 3 would be pretty high on LuxFloat. I don't know. If this is LuxFloat, then I definitely think you should take your yaw P down to like 5. This is why you should include a command line dump, kids. Got to give me that info. Anyway, yeah, that's the number one thing I see. So again, just to recap, we have oscillations in the gyro at times when the P and the D term are not flipping out. That means that the oscillations are not caused by excess P or D gain, right? That sort of follows. Then I look at all the 3 axes and I see that on the yaw axis, the P term is flipping out when we have the oscillations. So we looked at the roll and the pitch axis, and there were times when the P and the D term flipped out at high throttle, but at low throttle, no. But here we see on the yaw axis that the P term is kind of super active all the time. And so that's going to be what I'm going to go with. That's the most obvious thing that's wrong and the most obvious tuning related thing. Again, if you're on LuxFloat, then definitely 8 is too high, way too high. If you're on rewrite, I'm a little surprised, but every copter is different. 8 should not be 8 should be medium high for rewrite for most copters. So if you had to take your pitch or your yaw P down to 5 on rewrite, I'd be really surprised, but I mean, at the end of the day, the flight characteristics tell the tale. Okay, hope that was helpful. Happy flying.